Have you ever seen something from the corner of your eye that wasn't there when you looked again? How about hearing from a friend of a friend that while they were hiking somewhere, they thought they saw something impossible, but when they spoke to a park ranger, there was always a simple explanation that left you a little bit unsatisfied? My name is Jack, and this is my colleague Chris, and we are senior wardens of the Creature Conservation Initiative. We protect the world from the creatures of superstition and myth, but more importantly, protect those same creatures from the world. Well, hello there, people. How are we doing today? And hello there, Chris. How are you doing today?
I am dealing with a massive load of homework that I am not motivated to do, but other than that, I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good right now, but that's mostly because I am currently not in the middle of the sea.
Yes.
Yes, and I suspect I know what your homework is.
Yes, it seems like in the foreseeable future we'll probably be working together here and there because I have been assigned to what you are going to tell us about today, I think. So, in a way,
Yeah.
I'm very glad that this episode happens now because I can learn from it for my next assignment.
Learning from is definitely the order of the day, because this is one hell of a dangerous creature that we're talking about today, and you definitely really need to do that homework.
I'm afraid I will have to do it. Yes, it terrifies me a little bit because I've had cats that were smaller than this book is thick. The handbook on this thing is massive, and it feels quite overwhelming, to be honest.
I helped write part of the handbook.
Oh, really?
And I helped write the practical section. I helped write that, and it was not exactly. That's only a small part.
So at least I can partly blame you.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah.
So we're being very vague. Do you want to drop the name?
Yes, I've hinted that we're going to be talking about it very recently over the last probably about month or so's worth of episodes. But very simply, this is something that pretty much all of you will have heard of. It is the Leviathan.
Yes, the Leviathan. So, if you're not familiar with it, think a massive, massive water serpent.
Yeah, basically. But think massive water serpent, and then think bigger.
Yes.
there's no real way to, like, that there's a whole concept where you sometimes there are just some things out there that we can't fathom the size of them. It's just beyond our comprehension.
Yeah.
And this is one of those creatures.
Yeah. I mean, you've been there in person, so it's probably a different experience. I've only seen footage of it from our archives, and it always, when you watch a video like that or look at the photographs, it looks fake because the scale just seems so off, because how could a living being even get that big? It just feels so surreal.
It's one of those things where when it comes out of the water, it literally is visible from satellites. So we actually have to. It's one of the few times when we will beg, borrow, steal, pay anything that we need to get it removed from the public eye, from satellite images. It's a decent portion of our budget to essentially hide this thing, which I know seems like a bit of a weird thing to do for something like the CCI. I mean, what you have to understand, and the enormity of anyone who works and interacts with the Leviathan as part of the work, is this isn't a creature where we're trying to protect it from people hunting it. This isn't something where we don't want people to disturb it because it might damage its habitat or it might not survive. No, this is a creature where we don't want to annoy it. We do not want to, in any way, shape, or form, trigger it to feel the need to interact with us.
Yep. Interaction with the Leviathan is the last thing you want.
Yeah.
I guess on the bright side, now that we're going public with it, I guess a big part of our budget just freed up.
Yeah, to a certain degree. I mean, at the same time, we're also really, really don't want people to go and find it.
Yeah.
We don't want thrill seekers going out to look for it. You know, in the same way with the Minotaur or the Gorgon.
Yeah.
We don't want people to stumble into the area.
Yeah.
This is 100% a creature we are protecting the people from.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, a little peek behind the curtains here. So we have almost a carte blanche to talk about whatever we want and what we have encountered, but there are certain things that are still classified that we are not supposed to talk to the public about. And honestly, I'm a bit surprised that we got clearance to actually make an episode about the Leviathan, because I thought that would be one of the ones that they don't want the public to be too aware of.
Normally, it would be the case, but it's been popping up a lot more. Things like TikTok and whatnot have actually, really, really picked up videos and images. Most of the time we can tell people it's CGI, but after a while it's just one of those things where we really have to just go public and ask people to, well, frankly, don't be stupid. Just avoid it. If this is one of those things where we can't swoop in to help you. If we're in the area, even I and the team and everyone else, we could have the entirety of the CCI in one place. You get yourself into trouble with this, we are not coming to get you out of there.
Yeah. And it's not because we don't want to, it's just there's really nothing we can do. We can notify your family, but that's about it.
Yeah, pretty much. But let's get into a little bit more lighthearted and tell you a little bit about kind of the history and the myth and the legends that surround Leviathan.
Yes, please distract me from the fact that I might be eaten by it in the near future.
Oh, it won't directly eat you. It'll just swallow near you and you're gone.
Well, that's better. Thanks.
You are welcome. So, it's the myth and the legend should kind of give you an idea of how just incredible this entire creature is. So it comes from kind of Judeo-Christian religious lore. So it was one of the primordial beasts, and it is the primordial beast that represents the sea, along with Behemoth and Ziz. Again, one of those kind of things where you'll have heard of Behemoth.
I've heard of Behemoth, but Ziz?
Yeah, Ziz is the primordial beast of the skies.
Oh.
And Behemoth is primordial beast of the land. And it's also known as, well, those three altogether are known as the Banes of Humanity in religion.
Yep, that checks out exactly what it says on the tin.
And if we follow from religious kind of lore and how it all goes, essentially it's a creature that came about because of the battle between God and Chaos, was born into the abyss until God granted it access to Earth and specifically to the seas. And essentially all these three creatures, the Leviathan, obviously the one we're talking about today, but Behemoth and Ziz, see themselves as children of God.
No, it seems kind of like a dick move from God to put this near us.
I mean, you think that's a bit of a dick move? Well, For one, it is very much kind of kept with the motif of Chaos Kampf, which is the motif of God fighting chaos. The Leviathan is supposed to be the embodiment of chaos in religion, and essentially the idea is that Leviathan, along with Behemoth and Ziz, will fight God at the end times, and God will not only kill what essentially is supposed to be their children, but also, specifically with Leviathan, the righteous will feast upon the flesh of the Leviathan in a tent made from the skin of the Leviathan.
Okay, that is very metal and not what I'm used to from hearing about God. What it reminds me of, I hope I'm not stealing anything from your notes here, but it reminds me a bit of the Midgard serpent from Norse mythology. Is there any connection that you're aware of?
There is always a little bit of connection. People very much always tend to put Leviathan and Jormungandr kind of in the same world.
Yeah.
But they are actually separate.
Oh.
They are very similar in the sense of what they are kind of doing, in the kind of like how they look and the fact that, they will fight a god at the end times.
Sure.
But Jormungandr, as far as I understand it, and again, that's a different episode for another day, is the world serpent. Wraps around the world in the mythology, kind of contains Midgard.
Yeah.
But the Leviathan is essentially the Lord of the Sea, as far as pretty much as the myth and the legends kind of go, to the point where even apparently if you go to Greek mythology, Poseidon is the lord of Atlantis, and actually gave up and gave part power to the Leviathan over Atlantis rather than deal with it, rather than try and fight it or argue with it or oppose it in any way.
I mean, understandable, I guess.
Well, that's what I mean. It's one of those creatures, again, literal gods that we have spoken about, creating quite a lot of difficulty and, are, well, let's just say, don't shy away from bloodshed.
Yeah.
Are, at the very least, capitulating to this creature.
Yeah.
So that should kind of give you an idea of what it is. Again, that's the myth, but this is just to kind of explain how dangerous this creature is.
And you can see where the myths come from. Probably someone had actually seen the Leviathan and he was convinced that not even a god could confront that thing. And if you ever see it in person, you're gonna understand why that is, I suppose.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that, because again, whereas the major part seems to be, as I say, Judeo-Christian lore, it pops up all over the place. As we said already, the Greek gods, they bowed down to it, or at least capitulated to its requests. It's supposedly a direct continuation of the orgatic sea monster Lotan, a servant of the sea god Yamu. It's involved in Babylonian myths, following the same god Marduk defeating the serpent goddess Tiamat. It's mentioned in the Tanakh, where in Job, the book of Job, apparently it has the ability to breathe fire and boil entire sections of the sea, almost like a volcano.
Okay.
But in the Tanakh, there is actually multiple Leviathans. It's not just a single one.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And it's turned up in the Canaanites, the Mesopotamian, and the Egyptian mythology. Specifically in Egypt, in the Egyptian mythology, it is involved in a fight between Apep, the snake god, and Ra, the sun god.
Oh.
And it's basically seen as so awesome, in the literal sense of awe, that it's even given its name to a demon of Hell, one of the princes of Hell, they took the name. They're supposed to be called Leviathan, but they took the name from the thing that is in our seas, not the other way around.
That's wild.
Exactly. This is one of those creatures. And as you said already, people basically saw this, and it was included in their religion. Because, I mean, how can you see one of these kind of creatures and not go, oh, that is some deity of some kind?
Yeah. The only way you could not say that is if you had encountered a squonk before.
Well, I mean, the squonk is going to it just destroys your mind.
Maybe we should pit the squonk against the Leviathan if we have to.
I'll put that out in the next meeting.
All right.
Squonk versus Leviathan.
I'd love that.
Although I don't think I really want to damage Leviathan's mind, because it so far, while it is an unstoppable serpent-like sea monster, although it's worth noting that it has been likened to a dragon and it has been likened to a whale, still very, very kind of forgiving of people, in the sense that we are not an enemy, we are just there.
And I think that's the way we'd like to keep it.
Very much so. It is quite literally, it's not going to actively, or at present, it doesn't actively go after us and try and hurt us, kill us, because frankly, this thing could decimate various nations if it really, really wanted to. Smaller nations would just fall, and other ones... when I say that we can't do anything to this, I'm talking about militaries around the world could not do anything to this. We could bring them all together, we could fire everything we've got. It's still going to be there at the end.
Pretty much. If you've seen the Godzilla movies, a bit like that, but a lot worse.
When I say it makes Godzilla look a bit small, I do mean it makes Godzilla look, basically, we're not even ant to this creature. We are the bacteria that's on the ant.
Yeah. You were talking about smaller nations just falling, and I think there are nations that are actually smaller than the Leviathan.
Yeah. It's just so scary to think about. And what's even crazier is we get sent to follow it.
Yeah. I'm so excited. I'm so glad I got assigned this task.
Yeah.
I mean, if we see something, I only got the handbook yesterday, so I haven't really, I've not been diving into it yet. What are we even supposed to do if we, see anything worrisome?
Well, what we are quite literally doing is we track, we follow, we give real-time updates, because like I said, the CCI does not have satellites in orbit
yet.
So it takes us a bit of time to essentially get the satellite information. As a result, we can be maybe an hour behind as to where this thing is, and again, we're talking an absolutely massive creature.
Yeah.
You could only imagine the speed at which this thing can travel when it wants to. It's absolute. I can't even tell you how big it is, because we don't really know how big it is. The sizes that we work from are shadows in the sea. Some people always ask about why we haven't looked into, why we haven't gone to the deepest depths of the sea. Well, there's a reason for it. That's its domain.
Yes.
We don't go down there unless we know it's not there. Yeah. Essentially, do you want to? It's like breaking into someone's house, except this someone could destroy you by accident.
Yeah. I mean, there are some people who are scared of whales because of their size. In comparison to this, that's going to be a walk in the park.
Yeah. this transcends thalassophobia, that kind of fear of, the sublime, the huge, the open, the emptiness, that fear of sea, that fear of whales. This transcends that. You can't fear it in that way because you just can't understand it in that way. But what we literally do is we move along and we follow it and we report it back in real time to the CCI, and they do everything in their power. They pull every single string, twist every arm. Hell, we'll even resort to blackmail to get people out of the area.
For legal reasons, we do not resort to blackmail.
No, we don't resort to blackmail, but it's one of those things where we'll do everything that we need to try and clear the path, essentially. Luckily, it's not something that spends a lot of time running around, otherwise I would never be on land. What it does is it randomly seems to just come near the surface. And that's when we start picking it up, and that's when we need to find where it is.
So have you ever actually seen it as more than a shadow? Have you been face to face, so to speak?
I mean, not quite face to face, which I personally thank. I'm not a religious person, but I thank every single god and their mum, frankly, for that fact. But I have seen it out of the water, and essentially just think of like a very, very huge, scaly, dark coloured is probably the best way to put it. You're talking browns and greens and blues, but very, very deep kind of colours, where it could easily get hidden on the seabed, essentially. And that's pretty much all I can really tell you about how it is. It's kind of like very snake-like, with some kind of fish-like structure, so like fins and that kind of thing. It doesn't have arms or anything like that, or legs. It's just there. That's kind of essentially the section I have seen, which I would probably put down as maybe being the neck.
I'm trying to figure out which part of a snake's body is the neck, but that's a discussion for another day.
Through. That's what kind of went through my mind as I said it, but at the same time, that's kind of the point. I can't really tell you much else about it. Okay. In terms of like shadows and things like that, you'll have seen them all over Google, all over TikTok, all over various conspiracy sites and things like that. Just huge shadows. Yeah. And luckily, for a lot of the time, the shadow is so large under the water that if people are kind of like over the top of it, they don't notice it because the water is still uniform. It's not like if you had like a whale passing underneath you and you can kind of see that shape. But when you get images and you see the images from satellites and the like, yeah, you can really see just something quite intimidating.
Honestly, I'm kind of nervous to be following that thing around, just because what I've heard from you and from others who were assigned to this, it's some kind of primordial fear, really, when you see just how vast this thing is.
Yeah. I think last episode in the Gorgon, we were talking a little bit about the uncanny valley. That whole idea there seems to be something in our DNA, our genetics has told us to be fearful of something that looks nearly human but not quite right. This is again one of those primordial fears. You come face to face with this, you don't have a say. You are at its whims.
Yeah.
And the best you can hope for is it leaves you alone.
I mean, so far it has worked out for you, I guess.
Again, like a lot of what we do, a lot of what I do and the team does that I've worked with is we just follow. Yeah. We just follow. We report back to where it is. But you're not wrong in the sense of I have had a couple of interesting interactions with it.
Okay.
Whoa, everybody, did you hear that? That is the Leviathan is taking too much of our time, Klaxon. Well, yeah. This episode was starting to get a little bit long. It goes on for about another 25 or so minutes. So I decided we'll cut this one into a two-parter. No less than what the Leviathan deserves. But yeah, if you're enjoying this, then please feel free to follow the pod. Give us a like, a rating, 5 stars, or come and join us on our Discord, where you can ask all the questions you would love to and make suggestions for brand new creatures for us to talk about. But thank you very much for listening, and you get to hear about my interactions with Leviathan on the next episode. Have a lovely day.